Okay, thank you very much, all viewers. Moses is my name, and welcome to Amateur Thinking. What we are going to do here today is we're going to put up a statement, and we are expecting that everybody please join in, put in your contributions, positive or negative, and then at the end of the day, what we are expecting will be that this statement will be put on the will be put to a vote, and depending on that vote, an appropriate action will be taken accordingly. Also, we hope that if the majority of the voters are supporting the statement, then the implications of that statement may be used to influence law or policy with particular regards to the legality of war, suicide, and counterterrorism. Now, the statement reads as follows: the legal authority for wars, counter wars, terrorism, suicide, and all those things that are connected to war, resulting in the destruction and desecration of property and human lives in this day and age, is and will always be perfectly invalid and unacceptable, because we have always been able, but now it's even clearer than ever before, to predict with perfect certainty that the once thought single most limiting resource, which is energy and oil, indeed any other limiting resource, cannot be permanently limiting because of our inherent human ability to search and find and make it and to use other alternatives. Now that I've made that statement, let me support it. Looking at wars that have been fought in the past, present, and those that are projected to be fought in the future, and by giving examples, for example, Palestine versus Israel, or the West versus the Arab world, or Syria and Russia versus the West, or the West versus North Korea and her allies. Now, all these wars have got one thing in common. All the members, or all the people who are responsible to perpetuate those wars, seek an authority from within their law-making body or parliament. And they all wear a mind that accepts the inevitability of someone else's death in that war initially. And also sometimes they draw comfort in solidarity with others to subscribe to that war, to agree to the possible deaths of others, completely ignoring other more workable alternatives. And also importantly, they consult with divinity or mysticism or holiness or an almighty God to kill another person, fighting for what was thought to be permanently unlimited. Now, think about this seriously. Think about how ridiculously blasphemous is the thought that the almighty power is in your favor to win by killing another man who is also an almighty's creation, and completely disregarding your opponent's war consultation to the same power. Okay, your opponent and his almighty power may be inferior to yours. Now, you with your superior power is all the best you can do to solve that problem. Is it to kill another man? That God is a God of miracles. Could you not ask him for another miracle in the absence of unnatural deaths and destruction? This is blasphemy. Both the suicide bomber and the soldier are administratively insulting to that God or to that power. That is also administratively insulting to us, man and woman, to our collective intellect and collective genius. Unnatural death is horrible in every culture on earth. It's sad. It breeds doom, anguish, and a state of constant fear, where danger and any real importance for that danger and the death are overwhelmingly avoidable and should not even be bred in any human's mind. Now, in this era, in the 21st century, where we all have almost fully understood how to control fire, the science of thermodynamics, physics, mathematics, culture, our history, This is what makes us different. This is what makes us different from the rest of the other animals. If we may dig deep into our collective achievements across our history in science and technology, again, I'm just going to simply mention academics. Look at the laboratories that we have. Research and development. Okay, that may not be your area. The worlds of computers. If you just look at a computer with all its abilities, what a computer can do, and knowing the fact that a man is the one who made that computer, isn't that enough to give you strong reason not to ever have it in your thought to kill that man for whatever reason? Maybe that's not your area. Communication, television, radio, YouTube, and all social networks. Again, that may not be your area. Transportation, cars, aeroplanes, and trains. Exploration. We have even been to the moon. Can you imagine the genius of going to the moon? And we still think to solve a problem by killing another man? Entertainment, music, art and culture. The list is inexhaustible. It goes on and on and on. This is what gave us the perfect thought that the legal authority to war, all killings, all counter-terrorism and terrorism, and all the things that are connected to war in this day and age is completely invalid and unacceptable, because we were and we will always be able to predict with perfect certainty that the once thought single most limiting resource, which is energy or oil, will no longer be limited now and in the future. Second point here is, if we may sustain an argument that maybe we have not yet found this unlimited source of energy, it could be argued that also it's because not all possible minds in the world are working to find that solution for the scarcity of energy. Not all minds are working on it. It's only being looked for by just a few minds. It's being dealt with by a few minds around the world. And those minds were a thought governed by the law of the jungle, the law of survival of the fittest, sometimes unwittingly maintaining scarcity, as this is known by the laws of economics to be profitable. This gives them power, prestige, and money. These minds could support or be complacent to war and terror. In the clear light that wars and terror do not solve a problem permanently. They only solve the problem temporarily. It's like a long ceasefire. Why opt for a temporary solution when we can do a permanent solution? The third point here is, many others indeed may think or really indeed believe that it's inevitable. They say it's because man is a sinner. They say it's written in religious books. It's acceptable. It will happen because a higher power said that it will happen because they say man is a sinner. The fact and the truth here is that all these religious books or religious information and literature were written or given to man at a time or during an era when man had not seriously considered his ability to predict. Remember, at this time, man was an expert with or to his instinct to kill, to survive, including fellow man. Therefore, he was unable to, or he did not consider his ability to predict where the source of his limiting resource would come from. We were like the other animals, governed by the laws of scarcity, by the laws of the jungle, the laws of survival for the fittest. Indeed, we did not know. We did not know where rain, for example, where rain comes from. We didn't know. It was mysterious. Where rain comes from was mysterious. The fertility of the land was people did not know what happens if you put a seed in the ground. It grows. How does it grow? People did not know that. Can you imagine 10,000 years ago? Ill health, diseases, pestilences. For those of us who come from tropical countries, malaria, tiny mosquito, tiny little animal like this comes from nowhere. It bites you, it leaves you with a disease. So at that time, when this religious literature was given to man, man was in a condition, a horrible condition. The fourth point here is, even early scientific research, which overflowed from theology to biology 200 years ago to this date, also validated legal wars and suicide and terrorism with evidence which formed a big part of what was generally or is generally known as Darwinism, survival for the fittest. However, Darwinism or that theory completely ignored the fact that we are the only animals who can control fire, and it seems it's that ability what sets us apart from the rest of all the other animals by a great margin, despite the fact that we have up to 99% similar DNA. Being able to control fire encompasses this unique ability to do what the rest of the other animals could not do. For example, we as humans cannot fly, but we've taken time to study how other animals fly, for example, birds, and we have learned how it happens, therefore created a craft, and using the craft, we've been able to fly. Humans, we can scuba dive, we can go deep sea diving. Creatures like sharks or other fish cannot come out with their crafted tanks to breathe this air that we breathe because they are incapable of doing that. Now, the fifth point here is, think about vicious animals like lions or dogs, or indeed any other vicious animal. These animals are very, very tameable. And as evidenced by scientists like Pavlov in the experiments and general domestication under normal circumstances, these vicious animals will at least never attack their master, because that process of domestication has given them the ability to predict with certainty their limiting resource, which is food. Now, exploiting these phenomenon abilities in animals relentlessly allays their ability to not remotely think or plan or to kill any animals. Now, if animals can do it, what about us humans? In my closing statement, or lastly speaking, let us be reminded of transatlantic slavery, a horrible economic activity that took place in the 1500s. Generally, and of course, speaking, homes and villages were destroyed. Cultures and livelihoods were destroyed. Families and lives were destroyed. And more importantly, trajectories of cultures were completely destroyed. We don't know how those cultures would have developed if they were not adulterated. Men and women and children were painfully taken and used as a source of energy to work in plantations for hundreds and hundreds of years. May I say, this is our common history. This is not only Africa's history. This is all our history. African people, European people, Arabs, and all people of all our cultures. This is our history. Of course, there were people at the time who were opposed to this atrocious trade system, just like we are opposed to the authority to war and terrorism today. 700 years ago, the supporters of slavery could not see that there was crude oil in the belly of the earth. Can you imagine? Nobody knew that there was oil deep. Whilst human lives were being destroyed, they were taking families and destroying families. Nobody knew that there was oil in the belly of the earth. The most powerful people could not see that in that future, someone would develop an engine, a steam engine or otherwise, or indeed anything else that was developed at the time. No one could see that this development eventually contributed and thus slavery ended. Now, to those similar to the perpetuators of transatlantic slave trade, history is yelling at us a similar story today. there is no valid or acceptable reason for legality to war or to spend abundant time in a jurisdiction planning, thinking to destroy another man for any reason. It was, and it should now be absolutely clear, even to all of us, that we could, and even more so now, can predict with perfect certainty that the once single most limited resource, which is either energy or oil, or indeed any other limiting resource, has never and will no longer be scarce in the future because of our natural abilities to make things by manipulating or by controlling fire. If a vote to this statement is supported by the majority, then the legal authority to war or terrorism will be declared careless and irresponsible and will be punishable by however we will decide. By however we will collectively decide. Natural death is painful and unavoidable. But unnatural killings, lawful killing, is avoidable, and it should and will be unlawful if we choose. Fellow man is not the enemy. The enemy is the condition, the mental and physical, our inability to so far help one another to find a solution to the condition, to see we are one team as a human team, to see that another man is a valuable asset. We are all victims of existence. Either we will fully control our environment or we will all go back to that environment as failures. This has been Amateur Thinking. Thank you for listening. Please contribute. Take this message. I may not be the best person to have made this message. Take it and make it yours. Thank you for listening. Thank you.